This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 1743, an excerpt from the book Learn, Improve, Master, How to Develop Any Skill and Excel at It by Nick Velasquez, and I'm Justin Malik, your very own personal narrator. Happy Friday and welcome to an award-winning podcast where blogs are narrated to you for free with permission from the websites, sometimes book excerpts too, like today. I'll tell you about the author right after the reading, so for now, let's get right to the excerpt and start optimizing your life. An excerpt from the book, Learn, Improve, Master, How to Develop Any Skill and Excel at It by Nick Velasquez. Have you ever watched a talented guitarist perform or a star chef cook an incredible meal and think to yourself, I'd like to do that? We're drawn to learn a new skill, but most of the time our motivation stems from seeing the work or performance of those who are great at it. We see their abilities in action and fantasize about how good it would feel to be the ones doing it. But we are only looking at a part of the picture, the performance, and not the years of study, practice, and effort behind it. Taking the time to get the full picture and explore a skill before diving in benefits us in 4 ways. It gives us a reality check, helps us deconstruct the craft, primes the mind to learn, and leads to better questions, all of which help us determine if we want to devote our time and energy to the skill. Each of these benefits can help us decide if we want to commit to learning a new skill or if we're content to simply admire the work of the masters. Benefit number 1 gives us a reality check. Many people take up the guitar, drums, or other instruments with the dream of playing live in front of a cheering audience. But the path to that goal is usually through thousands of hours of solo practice, followed by more hours composing, refining, and rehearsing songs. Playing live usually accounts for a fraction of what's involved in playing an instrument. By not looking deeper, we miss what's behind the performances, the endless hours of practice, the years of study, the discipline, the sacrifices, and in some skills, the physical toll on the body. Taking the time to explore the work behind the show serves as a reality check and forces us to ask, is this what I really want to do? This reality check can be demotivating as we may realize our chosen craft is not what we were looking for or that we don't want to do the practice it requires. But knowing what the skill is about, how it's practiced, and where it can take us could also make it more appealing. The point is, we need to explore it to find out. Benefit number 2 helps us deconstruct the skill. Exploration is also a way to discover the different parts that make up the craft. There are these sub-skills, techniques, and principles that comprise it. Learning to play the guitar, for example, involves music theory, scales, chords, picking technique, and left-hander finger dexterity, among other things. And those parts have subparts in turn. Scales are divided into major, minor, pentatonic, and so on. We need to deconstruct our chosen skill and become familiar with the different elements involved. Doing so will help us develop a better plan for which ones to focus on, in what order, and how to approach them. There's a lot to learn in a craft, and if we don't break it down and focus on what matters most at a given moment, we'll drown in its magnitude. Benefit number 3 primes the mind to learn. Exploration brings perspective, context, and purpose to the day-to-day learning and practice, the grind, and how they fit into the overall craft. When we see the big picture, it's easier to stay motivated and internalize the smaller pieces and sub-skills. Let's take rock climbing, for instance. Rope work and tying knots are an important part of the sport, but if we start learning those parts without knowing their role, the information remains abstract and hard to memorize, or even boring. It's when we understand their use and how they fit into rock climbing, when we see the context and purpose around them, that we become engaged and prime our mind to learn them. Benefit number 4 leads to better questions. Lastly, exploration allows us to ask better, more specific questions about the skill because we know what to ask about. If we are delving into writing and ask, how do I become a good writer? We'll get the answer, write a lot and read a lot. That's good advice, but it's also vague, and it is so because the question is vague. If we ask instead, how do I energize a piece of writing? We'll get something like, speed up the pace by shortening sentences, using frequent paragraphing, and cutting most adverbs and adjectives. That's the power of asking better questions. We get specific answers tailored to our goals and circumstances, but we can't ask them if we don't build basic knowledge first. That's where exploration comes in. With an overview of our chosen craft, we'll develop enough understanding to ask those better questions and get better answers. Map out the path to success. When pursuing a new skill, it's a simple fact that we won't succeed if we aren't willing to put in the work to improve. As the benefits show, exploring a skill before making a commitment to it is an effective way to gauge our interest, motivation, and ability to pursue the skill to our greatest ability. The more understanding we have about the skill, the more we can make an informed commitment to the work. Furthermore, by breaking down the craft and asking the right questions, we create a roadmap to success that keeps us focused and constantly improving. Understand what we're getting into and what it takes to succeed, and we'll have fewer unpleasant surprises along the way to mastery. You just listened to an excerpt from the book Learn, Improve, Master: How to Develop Any Skill and Excel at It by Nick Velasquez. And I'll tell you about him in just a sec, but first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I'm sure you know that it's equally important to take care of both your physical and mental health. And now, there are some ways to make your mental health a priority, one of which includes speaking to a professional therapist. BetterHelp helps connect you and your personal licensed professional therapist online, where you can schedule your weekly video or phone sessions at your own convenience. With their counselors specializing in anxiety, relationships, LGBT matters, and more, they make it easy for you to change your counselors whenever needed. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Plus, BetterHelp offers financial aid, which makes it affordable to everyone. BetterHelp is not self-help, it is professional counseling where everything you share is confidential. I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/optimal. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's betterhelp, HELP.com/optimal. And thank you to Nick for the excerpt. Actually more of an adaptation, but you get the idea. Nick Velasquez is a passionate learner and devoted student of mastery. He's the author of the popular blog unlimitedmastery.com, where he writes about learning science, peak performance, creativity, and mastering skills. His writing has been featured in outlets such as Time and Thought Catalogue, and he speaks multiple languages and spends his time between Tokyo and Montreal. You can find Learn, Improve, Master on Amazon. I have the book linked in this episode's description. I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for being here and listening every day. Have a happy rest of your day, and I'll see you here over the weekend where your optimal life awaits.